name's Chasity, aka the Luminary Luna Beams.
And I'm Emily, the fine art medium.
And we're two mediums that specialize in the paranormal. Our purpose is to shed light on what goes bump in the night. That's why we call this podcast
Lights at midnight.
Lamp.
Bing!
Bing. All right, guys. So today we have another listener story. This is coming in from a lady. We're going to call her D for today. We will not be releasing any names in this one. So this one is somewhat anonymous, but we'll just refer to her as D. And she actually is a friend of mine, and she is the sister of my best friend. So, and she was kind enough to submit this story to us. So this, you'll notice this has occurred some years back, but we're going to kind of jump into it's back to the past, right? Not back to the future.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's a little different than ones that we brought to you guys before. So basically, that's what we're going to be talking about today, and also kind of getting more into the groove of season two because this is episode 5 of 3 out of 4 of the episodes we released so far have kind of been special episodes, and we've only got to do one like real big client case. So, and just as a reminder, all of our cases will be different throughout this season. And the ultimate goal along the way is once we identify, if we're able to identify what it was, then we're going to talk about the entity itself. Yes, it's something we covered in season 1 and, like, a couple episodes, but we find that by maybe repeating some of the information, it's always good to have a refresher, or we learn new stuff as we channel in these cases.
Word.
So, super important, something may come through that hasn't before, and that is kind of the fun of it, really. Not to speak lightly that, people's paranormal experiences are fun. Some people enjoy them, but in this case, um, I think you guys will really, really like this one. So before we go ahead and jump into Deb's stuff, how about we go ahead and do this week's experiences? Emily, what you got?
Yes. So I take Ghost to one specific poop spot for him to go, potty. And it's kind of a short distance from the house just because of the issues I have with my health. I can't walk or move very far. And so we have this specific poop spot, and he has no problem usually going there. However, I would say about 2 or 3 nights ago, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I was like, what the hell was that? He saw it too. And across the street, there is this house. It's actually not a twin, but it's like there's this house, and then there's like a fence in the middle, and then another house. Well, between this house and the fence, I see like the 7 foot shadowy thing just pacing back and forth in the side yard. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I'm
Mm-mm.
not quite sure what it is, because the only time I see entities that big are when they're not good, like really not good, of the demon variety. But I don't feel like that was demonic in any way. It just was big, and it was new to me. And then, that thing was out, and then I saw something else. And this again is right in front of the other house where I thought the lady was like, so there's an earthbound spirit in her house, which is behind me. And then to the right where I'm standing, um I see something move out of the corner of my eye, and it's smaller. It's giving like deceased cat energy, and I see it hop over the bushes, and it's just a shadow of like a cat. And Ghost sees that, and I'm like, oh god, he's not gonna go to the bathroom. Because when he sees things, he gets so distracted. It's like squirrel, and then he just doesn't go. But I counted 4 different entities that night, and I'm like, this
Mm.
neighborhood is foobarred. And yeah, I
What
I
day was
hate.
this, do you think? I mean, do you know the time frame or the date maybe
It
this
was
happened?
it was late. It was late at night. It's always late at night.
I was just curious about the moon phase, is all. Like, I wonder what
Oh,
the moon phase was when all that happened, because that's quite a bit.
it It was not a full moon, I know that. It was
S
3
so right
days.
around
Yeah.
okay, so right around last quarter moon.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So that's interesting. That's
Mm.
definitely interesting because I've noticed that my intuition um, has been a little more peaked in certain areas, especially in the area of dreams for me. I don't know why specifically.
Mhm.
I'd have to look more into it, but I've had a lot of dreams.
Yeah,
It's
but as far
interesting.
as my experiences, that was it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, like, I've noticed the last clearing case that I did that I've completed was right around Thanksgiving. And I wonder if I've told this story, but I'm just relating it to yours. There was a lady that I helped, I think I have this season, but that thing that I saw over her was like 8 or 9 foot tall and it was like big and black, like a big
Mhm.
black shadow.
Yeah.
And it come at me, bro. It was not scared of my light. Like I actually had to do something different because like when I did the whole light thing, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought about it, and then all of a sudden everything went rainbow, and then
Mhm.
it went like this. It did, and then I was able to do what I do. But I've noticed, that was one of the biggest things I've encountered as a shadow person. Like it took up
Mhm.
half the room. Because normally I don't see them that big, but this was big.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. So Christmas was exciting.
Oh
I
my
will
god.
share this briefly. So basically, what we did for Christmas was go spend time with Nick's family. It's not too far away, but far enough we didn't want to drive back late. So we just spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with them. And I was supposed to go to my family's house, around I think 4 that day or whatnot. And we go and we start getting ready. And my fiance had told me the day before, he's like, give me the keys because we have a thing about he misplaces stuff sometimes and then it's like whole big thing, and he's like, so give me the keys so I won't be mad at myself if I lose them. Oh god, that was some foreshadowing from hell.
Yeah.
Okay, because on Christmas, and this is the second set of keys, so y'all know where this is going here. We already had a key made before Thanksgiving, like the day before Thanksgiving, and we had it made the night before so we could go to Thanksgiving dinner. And we ended up getting to go to my sister's, but then my tire, there was a nail in my tire and then it went flat. So it's like something's keeping me from my family or the car. I'm not meant to drive that far. I don't know. But anyways, we get to looking for the keys. We can't find them. He's lost them. And we looked all day long. And anyways, we ended up not finding them. We had to have somebody come out and make another key again. And the messed up thing is, even if you find your keys, they recode it. So those keys don't work. So, which is understandable but annoying. And basically, they were gone. We looked everywhere. And then his mother called us, I think, 2 or 3 days later. And she said, hey, you'll never believe what I found. And I'm like, the keys. She's like, yeah, but they were out here on the porch right under the bench. And it's like one of those wrought iron benches that have the wood, they have like the wood like this and it's separated. So like one of those just simple wrought iron wooden benches. It was under the bench. And I looked there 3 times. V looked there 5 times and like it wasn't there. We looked in the dark, we looked in the daylight, we looked in with a flashlight, without a flashlight. We pulled everything out. And I mean, the keys aren't just keys, they were on a lanyard, like a Amazon, like Flex or something like that lanyard. And it's not like it was just a little key, like it had a heavy lighter on it too. And his mama found it there. She said it was just laying there. I'm like, what do you mean it was just laying there? Because we looked. So I'm not sure if that was paranormal, honestly, but it's just one of those occasions where, you look so hard for something maybe and it was there the whole time, you just didn't see it. But when this has happened like repetitively, for me, this is more like maybe it was holding us back from something going wrong with the car, or like, there was a reason for everything. But um, as you will maybe hear later in this episode, sometimes things disappear and then they just reappear for no reason. So we'll go ahead and get started. Emily, do you have anything else you want to say before
Well,
we
I
go
was
ahead and
gonna
roll
say I
on?
noticed a pattern with you. It's like when you work on a case, when you clean it, cleanse it, you do all the stuff you're supposed to, then shit hits the fan on your end and not necessarily the client's end. And it kind of feels like a haha, that's what you get.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and
Mm-hmm.
that does happen sometimes. I'll have things, and but sometimes it's more so on the people around me that are in
Mm-hmm.
my life than me. Sometimes it happens to me, but I have noticed that it happens to, like, there is one time, and this is, this is real life. This is legit what we're about to say. Like, I've helped clear a house, and 30 minutes later, my fiance calls me and saying he had like a box of OxyClean bust in his face at work. So, and that was a while ago, but it's something to keep in mind. If you do this type of work, like, you have to, sometimes things happen, and there is damage control for that. There
Mm-hmm.
is, things that we can do to manage that, but sometimes things just happen. I mean, everything's connected and you shouldn't be bothered, but when you understand that certain dark things work with certain dark things and they're one and the same, and then, other things that haven't been crossed over can happen. So, yeah, go
Faux
ahead.
show.
Well, I guess we're going to go ahead and insert this listener story. So, guys, stay tuned. It's just a couple minutes long, so it's not super long. And we'll go ahead and cut back in when it's done.
So, paranormal wise, I haven't really had any as like in my 30s, I guess. Hello? But I used to have them a lot, like at home, like when I was younger at home. Can you see me? I would feel somebody jumping at the end of my bed. I don't know who it was, what it was. But just about every night I would feel something jumping at the end of my bed, and then I'd literally have to like scare myself to go to sleep. Behind you, look. And I would see like black shadows, that run across or something, and then I look over and nothing's there. Right behind you. But I felt that thing or whatever it was, jumping at the end of my bed. I don't know what they wanted from me. I know that my older brother, he told me he would feel like, I didn't know this until we were older, as adults, and he told me that he felt that too, and I was just like like what in the world? I don't know. It's just so weird, and I mean, I don't know how long it was jumping on my bed for, but it was quite a while. Maybe until maybe I was like a teenager, because we've been in that home forever. I do have what do you call them? Gosh, I forgot what they're called. They're called or you feel like you're asleep but you're not, or half asleep or something, like halfway asleep. I can't remember. Gosh, I can't remember. But you feel like you're asleep and you feel like there's something on top of you and it won't let you off, let you up. Like you're kind of awake but you're not, and you're in that same position in that same room. I used to have those a lot when I moved to this house up the street from my parents like a few years ago, and yeah. But I don't know about anything else, but I'm gonna have to see if I have I thought I'd just share that with you, since you did tell me earlier that you'd like for me to share something paranormal wise. Or
Hey, don't you run away.
Please stay. Stay with me.
Alrighty, so that was Dee's experience. So, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about that. It's very interesting, and I do know these people, so I've been kind of, hearing the stories about their family and like their heritage and all that kind of stuff, and also too, I've basically been channeling and like helping them throughout the way. So Emily, she does not know anything. She knows about my close friend, but not tons of details, because I mean, they're all going to kind of be a part of this. I'm just prefacing everything. But basically, we're going to focus on Deb, but we got some other things to talk about. But basically, she doesn't know anything about any of the other family from the time she channeled in until went like in a review last night because we had like a little meeting prior. So I'm going to kind of help her validate what she gets, let her know like if there's anything that fits according to the things that I've picked up over time. And that's kind of how we're going to go with that. And then I have maybe some stories I can share about it too. And then we're going to talk about the type of entity or the being that we saw jumping on the bed. All right, Emily, do you want to go ahead and let us know what you got?
Mhm. So the information I got during channeling was from, I'm guessing he is some kind of guide, and he appeared to me, and he has like this indigenous look. He's got the long brown hair. He had like a gold and like aqua y blue headband and dark eyes, and he kind of presented as like a 35 to 43-year-old man, and yeah, tan skin, and yeah. So that's who I was getting all this information from that I
Okay.
channeled. And so the first thing he tells me, because I kind of just opened up about like, because there was so much stuff going on at one time, I kind of made it like, tell me what I need to know that is most important of this case. And the first thing he says is part of the problem will be the part of the solution. So I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And um it's interesting because typically when I channel, there's like a direction in which it goes. It'll give me background information, what the entity is or kind of is, and then it'll lead into the cleansing. But it
Mm-hmm.
actually did it backwards because of the importance of the cleansing part first.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is more important than knowing exactly what the entity is. At least
Yeah.
that's how he kind of explained it.
Right.
So I was like, "Okay." And so I was coming up with like a recipe of what I can make because I want to make incense and I want to make a special incense. And so, they were giving me all that stuff before I even knew what I was channeling and I had written it down.
I think
But
that's why you got it, partially why you got it backwards this time.
yeah.
I think that's why part is part of the reason too. I think that's a good
Mhm.
part of it.
Yeah. Um and a lot of this stuff that I channeled in has to do with past lives
Mm-hmm.
and descendants and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm seeing like this house in the middle of a field with like old people in it. And then I see like a family tree thing, and
Mm-hmm.
how it is you have like the main two up at the top, and then it branches off, and I see like it's like black, smoky, I don't know, mist or energy or whatever moving down the line and then branching off to each person, and then you get to the next generation and do the same thing. And
Yeah.
so I also heard too, what happens to one happens to all, which would then make sense to what I saw with the family tree thing.
Right. So, can we pause there and talk a little bit about kind of why you're seeing this stuff
Yeah.
and the things? That'll be a good place to stop. So, I do know some things. I can't elaborate on lots of things I don't have permission to, but I can say that there's a lot of ancestry background and things because they are Guatemalan, which makes them they are part of the Mayan descent. So they are, far as they know, they are 100% Guatemalan, like the Mayan type of Guatemalan. So they have a rich cultural background, And a lot of times, in that culture specifically, not this family particularly, but in the culture, they have different, like, witchcraft is huge. So, what Emily's saying, and I can validate, is because I've also picked that kind of up too, like describing the family tree and how it's branching down. There is definitely some generational issues going on, like generational curses. And that's a big part of things, like due to people's actions. And there could have been some even like things that, their ancestors did that caused like a stain on that lineage, and even caused like things to come into their life. So that's definitely, that makes sense, is what I'm saying, as to why you would see that kind of stuff, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
And
Now,
just going off of that a little bit, one thing I noticed in the whole spirituality like community, you get some people that are like, "Oh, if you're devout to whatever religion, you'll be fine, nothing happens." However, if you have descendants or past lives that got into some trouble, it can bring it to your current life. And so that
yeah,
statement isn't necessarily true.
right. So basically, you, in certain like Christian backgrounds, some people that are Christians or whatever, they believe like in generational curses and people being possessed and all that kind of stuff. And then some of them don't. They think that, because they're Christian, they can't be touched by darker things. But for me, if you want to look at it from that perspective, because some people listening may understand it from that perspective, when we talk about generational curses, um, a lot of times I've seen people possessed due to generational curses in that context of like Christianity, where they're casting them out. And you see that across a lot of religions, though, across the world. So it doesn't surprise me that, and they come from the background. It does transition to spirituality from my experience. There's certain people in this field that will not come off the fact that dark things even exist. And generational ties and curses and stuff are really important, because what it is it's a repeat of karma. And karma, this is what spirit's telling me right now. There probably is another word for this that I'm not picking up on for whatever reason, but basically generational curses is like karma through the bloodline, and it's up to the individual. Even though it's a different soul, this part of the same soul family, it's up to that individual to break that generational curse and change like their perception and their ways. So that's a little more information too about generational curses as well, since we're going to be doing a little educational stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
Things people may not know about. I know some people do, but even certain like Pentecostal holiness, they believe in stuff like that. Um, for
Mhm.
those that may be studying that religion to learn more, because I know I have studied it for sure. Um, what else do you got? I know I can definitely validate that though,
Well,
like the
you
generational
validated the
thing.
whole stain thing because one of the things I picked up was there's a stain on the family. Someone committed some
Mm,
kind of wrongdoing, and it kind of created the problem that we're talking about.
yeah,
Mhm.
yep, that's validating then for sure. Um,
Yep.
because there is some things I know about. Again, I can't be completely open with them, but there were things in their background that could cause that type of repetitive stuff, and it's common. Like, this is not an uncommon thing. This is not 1 in 100 type things that people deal with, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just not. It's more common than you think. And that's why you commonly will see families. I mean, yes, there are mental issues and health issues that can be passed down too, but there's also spiritual issues.
Mhm. And one of the words I got was predisposition. So you can take
Right.
that as spiritual or health or both.
Yeah, absolutely. What else do you got for us?
So, the last thing I was going to touch upon just based off of what I can and cannot say really, but there's multiple angles in which this needs to be dealt with. Just because you have past life stuff and then you have bloodline stuff and then you have current stuff.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Um, so part of the generational thing, and Emily was talking about this yesterday when we had our pre-meeting, was the how explain how you saw the entity. So like we can go ahead and kind of move on to the entity and the different types of things to do with that, but explain how you explained to me how you saw the entities that's associated with the family, which I personally think has something to do with jumping on the bed.
Yes. So I saw multiple entities. So I'm seeing the black shadowy thing like through the bloodline that's attached to everybody,
Hmm.
especially the blood relatives. But then I also saw like this trickstery, it's not a human, but it's trying to pretend it's a human to throw you off. But
Hmm.
I noticed that it was very shadowy but very trickstery, and then its face would just keep swapping and changing. It tried to stay male, but when I then focused on the bed's part, it was very similar
Hmm.
without giving that up quite yet. But
Right.
it is like very, oh, the whole portal thing. So it was like
Mm.
when I was channeling, I was also astral projecting, and I ended up in this space, and I see this trickster looking person. He's laughing like ha ha ha, you're never going to catch me kind of vibe. And he almost had like this gestury like shape of a hat thing, but that's just a symbol for me saying it's a type of trickster. And so it would jump through the portal. I would follow it and jump through the portal, and then we'd end up in a different time frame. So it was like the past. And then, I would catch up to him and I'd get really close. He'd turn around, either laugh or smile at me because we did this for quite a while. And I would fall him again. And again, different time period, different like scenery. But again, it's in the past. And we just
Mhm.
keep doing this like chase game, though he did get away, but I let him get away because,
Right.
yeah.
And it's interesting about that too because things have went missing
Mhm.
like for them too.
Yeah.
And I will say that they have seen a black shadow at like with recently. But I have heard stories of the black shadow and I have been around my best friend and seen black shadow with my own eyes that resembled a family member, like an outline, like almost like the stature of the family member, but not the exact family member. Actually, I thought it was one of the brothers walking out behind one of the cousins. And I mean, it was solid pitch black. And I mean, with my eyes, it was getting dark, but it wasn't dark outside. It
Mhm.
was like after golden hour when the sun has set, but there's still light.
Yeah.
So I've seen that, and just within this generation, I've heard about it, and they have seen it too. And mind you, I believe they lived in the same house, so it is the same location because as you heard, this was a while back, like the whole jumping on the bed thing. But I do know that the entities and stuff, or the things we're seeing, I've seen faces, but not often, not associated with this. If I've seen faces with this family, it's been past relatives, which I know you have something to say about that
Mhm.
too. We don't need to forget about the relatives maybe that come in. But I've seen them and stuff, but associated with the entity, it's all been like dark, pitch black, or like even I've seen the like energetic anomalies as well being around her brother, which is they're pretty close to, which is my best friend. So it validates the whole linkage between, because
Mhm.
she also, I don't know, I can't remember about the sleep paralysis part, but I know she has suffered sleep paralysis. She used to when she didn't live in the house, but she has since had sleep paralysis recently too. So Do you want to go ahead and maybe talk a little bit about, or are you going to talk a little bit about the ancestors that you spoke to, or you had any information about?
So I was gonna add, like, because I saw the three men with what looked like the white thick tape over their mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's part of like the curse end of things. And then I heard food, and Spirit is literally telling me right now that she had sleep paralysis because it's feeding off of her, which drained her so bad she couldn't move her body.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then
That
for
makes
the
sense.
so then a past father figure did try coming through, or he did pretty much come through, and he was saying how he's trying to right his wrongs now that he's passed and feels as though he's able to accomplish more after death, since many of his wrongdoings when he was alive were more of a spiritual related matter.
Okay. And that makes sense too. There's definitely things that happen with that side of the family that all that makes sense. I can validate that for you. I can't really explain too much.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, 100%. And I've had that, I believe you're talking about the dad side,
Yep.
right? Okay. And then I've connected with the grandmother on the mom side, and she watches over them too. And I talked to my friend today and told him what you said. So he said that you also could potentially be picking up on the mom side as well for the granddad. There's a
Oh.
potential. I forgot to tell you that. But you know, it could be that you picked up on both. I think because I know you said a man and a woman, or a man and a man. I'm sorry, I'm trying to
Well, I
remember.
had the guy that showed him his entire body, and then I had a separate man come through, and then I had an
Mhm.
older woman come through.
Gotcha. That's what I thought. So I think the whole entire body guy, unless I've got them flipped. The guy, one of the guys that come through was the grandfather on the mother's side, and I think you picked up on the father's side, grandfather. So it was a couple
Yeah,
potentially.
because
Is
the
potential.
grandmother, the one that came through, was the one that was pushing more for the Christianity side
Yeah,
for
that would be
them.
mom.
Okay, for them to go down
That
that
would be
route.
that would be the mom side. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you got it. You definitely did. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, so I've picked that up about the grandmother. I think that's all I have to add to validate
Mhm.
that for you, that she's kind of watching over them, and there is a young child in the house too. So that's another reason. Like, there's some things we're going to do off camera and talk to them. And I mean, my best friend, he knows all about everything that I do, so he already kind of knows what's going on, and they know what they kind of need to do. But we're going to get a plan together for them. Anybody that's wondering, and give them the option, to do certain things. And they come from that Christian background, but none of the children have chose that path, to my knowledge. It's not that they don't believe or anything, but they didn't go like, how they were completely raised. But it wasn't always a part of their life. So, and, I just find that interesting too, because sometimes every once in a while, one of the children will kind of slide into that, but they're closer to spirituality, I think,
Mhm.
than Christianity.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything else that you want to share before we move on to, I guess we could say, what we felt like was jumping on the bed?
That's all I've got for that.
Okay. Um, so we've had this story for a little while, and we've been planning on doing it for a little while, but basically, it took me a while to see what it was. And the reason that is because these people are close to me. So if you notice, I haven't been putting in too much into this episode, because when the closer you are to somebody, you can read for them, you can, like, do stuff for them. But when it comes to certain things, it is harder to see, because I read for them all the time. But sometimes we have blind spots because we're extremely emotionally invested into an individual. It's like reading your fiance or something, so,
Mhm.
or your sister. Even though I can, they're so intertwined in my life that spirit won't tell you everything or do everything, because there's lessons and things to learn and grow from, and you're not meant to know everything, because sometimes it might have something to do with individual. It's like a soul tie, basically.
Mhm.
Um, so it took me a while and to really see through, but
Mhm.
I know one other time before I finally like I got it. It's like spirit just turned it on for me this week, and I validated this with Mech. But I don't know. Should I go first or should you? Now I don't know
I
because
think
he
I should go
validated.
since you know it.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
excited.
So again, I was seeing a humanoid, I'm going to say genderless, shadowy trickster thing. I'm going to go and say more it's a thought form because
Mm,
of the countless changing of the faces and how it didn't just pick one and it went both genders. Um and I also think part of the faces have to do with like the past lives and the past energies and the past descendants and all the energy collected from that, and so it would just keep
mm,
going. And it was attracted to the energy of the family as a whole just because of their descendants in past lives. And it's kind of one of those things where in their present life, it's not they can't do much about it other than stay aware, but also keep themselves in check and make sure, they don't go down any like paths that could get them into trouble or mess up their health in any way
mm.
that would make them easier targets for these entities.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Anything else?
Um, and plus she was a child, so you'll have children that will be more affected because
Hmm.
they're younger, their lights are brighter, and plus her light was already bright because of her, where she was descended from
Mm-hmm.
certain cultures.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, so pretty much between the information Emily and I got, you can validate most of it. Some of it's a little different, but I think it's because I can't see into it. And I preface that by saying like when I see this thing, it's not it's a little boy, and that's what I saw. Even though I felt something behind it, it was a little boy, and he was about, let's say, the age of 9 to 12 depending. And behind him, while he's like jumping on the bed like he's just having a blast, he's like, I mean, this thing is like, I say thing because, but we'll just say this, a little boy, it's like his knees are almost touching his chin. He's jumping up and jumping around and just a little. And then the mom, I thought maybe, uh, but she looks older actually, and I had to kind of reevaluate this. There was just somebody standing right behind him going just like
Mhm.
stone cold, and she's just emotionless, almost like I've seen fractured pieces before.
Mhm.
And you know I think that it is definitely something darker behind it. There are multiple entities, but this particularly is like a fractured piece that has been captured by
Yeah, cuz I
something
see
darker.
this, and when I see this, I see puppetry.
Yeah. It's been captured by something darker because this entity is evading. And it's not just evading as in like jumping through the portals, that's one thing, but evading as in like information. It will constantly shift, like she's saying. And I definitely can validate that because I've dealt with it now for like 5 years. Like, and it's not just one thing, it's an energy. And the more that I learn, the more I realize that it's not always just one individual thing. It's like a energy. It's spiritual warfare. They work together because this is a great example of how a normal family, can have spiritual warfare.
Mhm.
And um, I definitely feel thought for me, but there is something ancient behind it as part of it. I mean, if you want to call that evil, like demonic and stuff, you could particularly, but I don't think it's like super demonic.
You know what I'm
It's
feeling? It's like of that time back when they were doing their Mayan stuff. It's like whatever they were worshiping back then, that's like the main figurehead behind it.
Well, there's so much that would
But
be
they're
extremely hard.
because there's so many, because they're polytheistic.
Mm-hmm. So they have tons and for different things. So I can't pronounce it, but it's a puck, and they're gonna slaughter me in the comments. I don't know it, but it's like AH, and then there's a space PUCH, and that is like the figure of death. But there's more, and there's so much more to that culture. Like I would love to, excuse me, get into one day, but there's something intertwined in all this because it is like spiritual war. Some people would call it like demonic. You know, honestly, and this is an opinion that I'm continuing to develop as I go, because I'm not completely open right now, but I'm definitely somewhat open. And it's almost like the thought forms are produced by, like how you're talking about, it's like a farm. So it's able to manipulate. Oh, thank you, Spirit. This is Epiphany. It's able to manipulate the darker thing behind it, is able to do things in a person's life to make them create the thought forms. And the thought forms are unmanageable. So they continue to grow. It's like growing an army almost against the family. It's an army, Spirit saying an army of darkness. That's why they're all black.
Yep. And it's like the army thing, because it splits through each family member and then it just keeps multiplying. It's like Hydra and Hercules, you cut one head off and then you get 5 more heads.
Right. It's like it's ready. Now, does
Yeah.
that mean it, and there's a way to get rid of it and defeat it, but it comes with changing certain aspects of your life and understanding your, your bloodline and what karmatic debts might be on that. Some people don't like talking about this, but it's, from my experience, it's definitely real.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And
it's
that's
just,
why, for a while I was focused on past lives, because spirit was trying to get me used to it, because it is important to be able to see that stuff and to understand where there could be some karma issues, some trauma issues, some debts that need fixed. And I'm working on clearing that. So when you have families like the one we're dealing with, if we can cut and heal all that stuff, it'll minimize the damage.
it's all about the origin, guys.
The origin. And as far as
Pun
like
intended.
mastermind behind it, it's not giving like the demons that we know of. It's giving like deity, like, but on the darker end of the spectrum, but not demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, demon's not the right word, but it is darkness. I mean,
Yeah.
people have to understand there's so many levels and layers and stuff to it. There is something that is part of their culture that has to do with stuff, because I'm going to be honest with you, I've even done candle work on this thing, and it's effective, but and it could have something to do with where everybody's on a different playing field, you know what
You
I'm
know
saying, when they try
why?
to do something,
You know why?
because it's not of the culture. And that's what I'm, yeah, basically, right, because it's not.
Part of the problem is the solution. That's what they said.
I wrote that down, and I'm
That's what I said
go ahead.
yesterday. Part of
I
the
know, but keep going with
That
it.
was literally the first thing that spirit guide guy told me was, in order to combat this thing, the solution is also part of the problem. And
Okay, but
so
tell me why. Tell me
because
why.
because they're telling me like certain ingredients that I need to put into this mixture I'm formulating for him, and then um a lot of it comes from the cultures. So copal, it's one of the
Yeah, yeah, that's what okay. I thought we were on the same page
major
because you told.
ingredients, and then the
Yeah.
ayahuasca ingredients. And no, we're not gonna have them drink it, but you can actually burn those ingredients, and you can thank that spirit guide guy who told me that. But he was
Yeah.
like, part of the solution is part of the problem. You got to use what they've used in order to fight it, because our typical stuff Like the candle work, um, ain't gonna work.
Well, the candle work and stuff could work with the right ingredients,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I thought the reason I was keep asking why is because I thought you meant like witchcraft with witchcraft.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well.
because that's you kept saying it, and I was like, "Tell me why," because I didn't know
Yeah.
where you were going. Plus, for the
Well,
listener,
your standard candle, if you just do a white candle, a lot of it isn't even like the physical item itself, and
hmm
it's more of the intention and how you fight metaphysically, and you just use the candle as kind of like a
hmm
placeholder. But it's you also have to flip sorry, you also have to flip your mindset and your mind frame. So yes, it's like fighting the using witchcraft to fight witchcraft, or
right.
fighting a ritual with a ritual or a similar ritual.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because I just wanted to see which direction you were going to go with that because I figured I'm too close. First of all, it's not that I'm too close to help, but like the emotional involvement, maybe that was messing with my intuition. Then I was like, doubtful because I've been able to do it before.
Mhm.
But another thing is, some of the family still lives in the same house. So you have different free wills combating each other. I also thought that too.
I
I think the term because I went ahead and you probably can't see it, but I went ahead and when you said that, I wanted to write that down and
mhm.
see and talk about that to kind of wrap everything up and kind of come back to that. Part of the problem will be the solution. Well, there's things that we can't necessarily talk about, but we can say that part of the problem would be the solution. Well, part of the problem roots back to the origin of ancestors making the same mistakes, creating that karmatic stain that keeps getting passed down. So it would be part of the problem will be the solution. Well, that was part of the problem, but the solution would be to cut those mistakes. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to kind
Yeah,
of go
but
into that.
also remember what I said, what happens to one will happen to all. Well,
Well, yeah, yeah.
you got to when we do the cleansing, we somehow got to do I know it's not going to they're not going to agree to it, but if we could get it to where we do them all at the same time, because what happens to one will happen to all.
hmm
Even though it sounds like you can just do it for one, but I feel like we have to do it all at the same time for them.
It won't ever happen.
I know.
It won't ever happen because we can't, some people don't want to be a part of it, but I do believe that a person can protect them. It's like what happens to one will happen to all. But also too, I think from a perspective of like I literally what's interesting, y'all, I'm talking to the audience specifically on this, is the day that me and Emily talked about this, it was either the day of or the night before. Me and my friend were hanging out and I said, you know what's so interesting, all of the children like of the Christian mom and dad, like I said, none of them went into the church. All of them have experienced similar like life issues, and all of them have, um, like for example, they don't settle down. They have long term relationships are not really their thing, and that could be. It's interesting because they come from a mom and dad that are still together. So normally in like a normal family unit, when that happens, the probability of that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because they
So
say when you come from a family with divorced parents, the rate of divorce when you get married is going to be much higher than if your parents were together.
yeah, it's statistics and probability.
Mhm.
It's like, um, but yeah, I just thought that would be interesting to kind of go over before
Mhm.
we ended the video. And I mean, maybe we're all about learning and experiences and stuff like that. If y'all picked up anything intuitive, let us know in the comments too. If
Mhm.
y'all got anything from what we said, if you have any ideas or anything, feel free to get involved.
Word.
Word. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to add? Again, just so everybody knows, like we're working with who we can in the family, and because not everybody's going to be on board. It's really hard because I mean everybody's grown now. They're
Yeah.
all grown, and one of them has a child, and mainly my biggest thing is, luckily, I'm around and I can help them through this. And Emily has some things in mind, and we're going, to help them any way that we can. We want to make sure y'all know that.
Yep. And I just want to say thank you, Dee, for submitting your story.
And we hope that y'all maybe learned something new from this or had a nice little refresher. And again, get involved in the comments below. Also, if you don't mind, if you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe. It really helps us out and pushes us out into the algorithm. Emily, do you have anything else you want to add?
I was curious too, like if there was one main person that we could do it for that would affect all of them at the same time, but I don't know if that would work.
It free will involved,
Yeah.
like, that's working on a family is hard.
Yeah.
Working on family is a hard thing to do because you don't necessarily have to get everybody involved to clear something out bad. If it's hurting somebody, it can go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have things that bring stuff back, it might not be the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're going to have somebody constantly filtering in something back. But when a person takes that intention and the stance on protecting themselves from things, that's when it will work. But does it make them completely out of scope once it's cleared? No, it doesn't. But that is something to understand.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. That's something to understand when it comes to living with people and having, different things, because it wouldn't matter what type of paranormal, well, I mean, maybe you could have, there's certain things, but it wouldn't matter what type of paranormal activity that it
Mm-hmm.
was, it would still be the same no matter the family unit.
Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are awesome sauce. And hope you guys had an awesome New Year's. So,
Yep. Happy belated New Year. Lots to look forward to in 2024. Super excited. And yeah, we can't wait to bring you guys more content. So until next time.
peace out.
Hey, if you have a haunted story you want to share, you can email us at lightsatmidnightpodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch with us there. We'd love to hear from you. We really appreciate y'all hanging around and checking it out. And yeah, thank you so much. We are super excited to bring you some super awesome content. We really appreciate you guys checking us out.
Thank you to all that took the time to listen to this week's episode. Your support means the world to us. And remember, all of us have the ability to shine brightly and shed positivity, even in the darkest of places. Stay safe, stay well, and light it up!